Welcome back to another episode of Marketing Girly by Sky Society. Today I am chatting with Mackie Swoger. She is the Senior Manager of Marketing at Hulu. Welcome, Mackie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for coming on. Very excited to walk through your career journey and how you ended up here at Hulu. But before we jump into all of that, can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I work for Hulu. I am a senior marketing manager, mostly leading on all of our adult animation titles. Anything that touches adult animation is kind of my realm and space that I exist in. Been there for a couple years. Have very much enjoyed it. As obnoxious as it is, I really do love my job, which I feel very blessed to say. What I get to do in my job is basically I'm on the strategy team. So we build out the overall strategy for all of our different show launches, film launches, brand campaigns are part of it as well. And from that, we get to work with our various social and PR teams and really bring that strategy to life and bring that story to life with them. Um, Leading up to that, I've been all over the place in entertainment. I started as a music business and entertainment industry studies major at Belmont University, which is, believe it or not, a real degree. So very much locked into entertainment pretty early on. I was relentless when I was in college. I graduated with 10 internships and did like two
Wait,
internships.
10 internships?
Yes.
How? How?
I don't know. I was like, I have all the time in the world and I have to use it. And I would do two internships every summer and at least one internship every semester starting my sophomore year of college. And
That is crazy.
I think technically most of them were not legal because I wasn't getting college credit. I wasn't getting paid. It was literally free labor, but I just never told anyone and they kind of just bought my word for it. So
Would you go in and like pitch companies or how would you get those internships?
I would just interview and I would just apply. And if they asked if I needed credit, I'd be like, yeah, sure. And then
They
they
never would
never,
give you credit.
they just never checked. So I was like, whatever.
Interesting. That's so interesting. Was were other like were you the only one doing this out of like all of your friends? Like how was managing all of that on top of coursework?
I will say Belmont University is a very ambitious school when it comes to music and entertainment. Definitely a lot of aspiring songwriters, singers, things like that. So, very ambitious school in and of itself. I don't think there was anyone else graduate. Like, I don't think there was anyone with 10 internships at the end of the 4 years. Um, I graduated early. I don't know. Like, I don't know what time was back then, but it was like I was just using every hour that I had in the day to do something with.
And were the internships were you just like anything in entertainment? Was it like anything you could get? Like, what was
Mhm.
kind of your criteria for an internship?
Main focus was music. I wanted to be in music for a long time, which I did do for a little bit, and I'll get into it. But music was the main one. When I came, so Belmont University is a school in Nashville. I am based in LA. My family's in LA, so I would be back in LA over the summer. So I got to do a lot of music internships while I was at school. And then I'd come out here and I did fashion internships and like a journaling internship and just any person that would hire me, I said yes to basically. So very wide range, which I think there was no intention or strategy really behind what I was doing, but I think because I had done so many different things, it my path through my career has been just it's been a lot easier to understand what other teams are doing, where people are
Mhm.
coming from. It's a point of view that not many people have because usually, you kind of find a place and you stick there. So definitely a blessing. Definitely, took up. I wasn't the most social person in college. I was like school and internships and had my like two or three best friends, you know.
Yeah.
But from there, I did all my internships. I actually, interestingly enough, I my senior year, or what would have been my senior year, I applied for this program through Belmont that was this, I think, 12-week summer course in New York that was all about touring management or a touring agency kind of thing. And I didn't get picked for it. And it was the first time I hadn't got picked for something and did not handle it well. I don't know if anyone's seen Gilmore Girls, but that moment where Rory like doesn't get picked for a job and she's like, I'm giving it all up and I'm never going to Harvard and whatever. That was
Yes.
me for like 30 minutes. I was like, I'm not doing an internship. I don't even know what I want for my career. It was devastating unnecessarily. And my mom said, apply for one internship. There was one internship that I had always wanted. She said, apply for that one internship and see what happens. And I finally got that internship. And that internship, which I obviously did, then turned into my first job a couple months later and like really kickstarted my career. So I don't know that I needed to do 10 internships to get there, but it did ultimately pay off with all of that. And that first job was at a publicity agency where I actually started in like talent publicity for a few months, but ultimately moved over to the music publicity side. I had a very tough boss at that job who I very much respect. We had a very great relationship, worked very well together, but she was tough. And I was very malleable, like, and whoever I worked for at that time was going to dictate who I was, basically. So I learned a lot from her, and but music is tough. Anyone that wants to work in music, I will not sugarcoat it for you. It is a tough industry, and you don't make a lot of money, and it's a lot of ego and artists, and it's just like a tough industry. And I did that for a while and was very, very blessed and lucky with the people that I worked with, but ultimately decided music wasn't my place.
But that
And
was
from,
like that was your
yeah,
dream, right? All through college, it was like music, music, music. That's what I'm gonna be. And then you get the job in music, and you're like, wait, I actually don't like
yeah,
this.
yeah. And it was pretty, I would say one of the most formative things in my life was letting go of my dream of working in music. Like that was very, because it was, I mean, it was my personality for most of my life, you know? Yeah, coming to terms with that not being me or what I was going to do was really a weird thing to figure out. But it was also happening at a time where I desperately needed something different. So I just didn't even have the time to care. Like it came after when so basically my transition out of it was a friend that I had made at that agency. Her boss was breaking off to start her own company and they were looking for a third person to join. And she reached out and she was like, would you be interested in doing this with us? And so I moved to the job, I did the job. And then a few months later, I was like, wow, I really don't work in music. Like, I don't even touch music. I mean, I used to have to wake up at 5 a.m. to do the Grammy nominations. Like, I just don't even touch music very much anymore. And this job was it was very talent relations driven. We called ourselves a consulting company. Maybe that is the right word, but it was basically three of us that were handling all of the management and publicity and marketing and production companies and everything for a few A-list clients. So very different from what I was doing, but very formative in that there were only three of us. So the buck fell with all of us. You know, it was the first time that I was really having responsibility of things, and having to work through handling mistakes on my own, taking care of my own mistakes, because again, there were only three of us and we just kind of had our own things. Grew a lot at that job. That was kind of my first toe dip into marketing. Now that I work in marketing and know what marketing really is on this side, I would say I lightly didn't, I had approvals and stuff. I wasn't creating strategies, I wasn't doing any of that. But through that, we worked with Hulu on the launch of a show. and got very, very close with my now boss, who they were looking for someone new on the team. And after that show wrapped, she reached out and said, we're looking for someone if you're looking. And I was like, great. And
That's
that's it.
amazing. Wait, so I was gonna ask you about the marketing piece because like now you work in
Yep.
marketing. So when you initially knew that you wanted to work in music, were you open to like any single role as long as it was in music, or did you know you wanted to go into marketing?
I did want to be in music publicity. So my thought process, I either wanted to do music, be a manager or be a publicist. And I will be completely honest. The reason that was because those are the people that are usually the closest to the artist and that
Mm,
have, the managers obviously have a huge stake in things. Publicity is usually, again, you're close to the artist, you're understanding their vision. I just really liked that actually being a part of the actual album and music and release of all of that. I did try to look for other jobs in music after my like year and a half or two in publicity, but by then I just like again just needed to be anywhere else at that point and just knew. And it's the second that you start to understand your worth and your intelligence and the way that, because what I've learned is my stake in the game, what I bring to the table are my opinions. You can teach pretty much anything in this job. You can teach how to present, how to formulate the right, like you really can teach a lot of it, but the ideas and the opinions and the things that exist in your brain that only come from your own experience and your ability to let your brain get to those ideas is really the thing that will differentiate and makes you special in this job. Um, so all that to say, sorry, long diatribe. All that to say is that once you kind of know that, it is hard to get paid next to nothing. It's
yeah.
hard to accept, like, it's just hard. And it's okay to expect more, I think. It's okay to expect more money. It's okay to believe in yourself enough to expect a little bit more than what you're being given.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I've interviewed some other guests that also started in music and who left for very similar reasons around the pay.
Mhm.
And for certain industries, sometimes that is like the sacrifice of getting to work, with music. Like, and then then it comes down to like a personal decision of is that enough
Absolutely.
or do you need the money too? So, I'm also curious. You mentioned kind of like you started to, well, obviously, like now, well, I can look at you objectively and be like, you did 10 internships, you're a badass. Like, of course, you should be deserving of so much money and, title and all that stuff. But how long did it take you to realize that and to be able to advocate for yourself? Because I think sometimes when we're young, especially like we kind of doubt ourselves a bit more, we're a little bit more hesitant to like stand up for ourselves. So when did it kind of click for you where you're like, wait, I actually like I'm really good at what I do and I can and I do deserve more?
Yeah. So there have been two pivotal moments, I would say. The first moment came after this music job where basically what had happened, I was thinking I was on the path to growth, maybe a promotion, something good coming up. And my boss, there was a lot happening at this agency. We were getting bought out by some other company. There was just a lot happening. So my boss was also at the time breaking off to start her own company. And I immediately quit the agency, wanted to go with her, no doubt about it. But what had happened was it kind of went from me being super involved and getting more responsibility on the music publicity side to starting a company and becoming like an office manager and just focusing less on the job that I actually wanted to be doing. Because I was an assistant at the time. So it was whatever she was doing was my focus. And so then it just became I am not affording rent barely. And now I'm not really growing and I'm not doing the job that I thought I was going to be doing. And that just felt unfair. And I honestly, that pivotal moment of me realizing that and calling her and saying, like, I'm not going to do this anymore was me being a brat. Like that was not me having some strong backbone, realizing my worth moment. That was me being 22, 23 years old and a brat and like over it. So that was one moment where it was just like, I feel like I'm not even getting the truth. I feel like I'm being misled. And I don't think that's fair. And it was just more of like a blip in time. But when I started working at Hulu about 2 years ago, I would say about 3 months into that job, which I had no actual tangible experience with this. I had worked with their team. I had approvals over marketing things, but I hadn't done this job before. And about 3 months in, I was like, oh, this is the most natural fit I've ever been in. And I paid attention a lot to the people that were, I paid attention a lot to the people that were being noticed. And I realized I am just as good as those people. And they are a position or two above me. And I trust this. It was just like I just like allowed myself to, when people said I did a good job, I said thank you. And no longer felt like when I mess up, I don't feel anxious about it anymore. It's like my value, it just comes from so much more than my mistakes and things that I think when we're younger think define us. And what really defines you is how you fix those mistakes and how you're able to address it. And really, I think your biggest growing moments and how you get to this place of, I am good at my job and I am not insecure and I will ask for what I want to ask for are those mistakes and those moments that feel debilitating and like you're going to get fired over this one little thing. Coming out of that and even just surviving it, even not fixing it, just surviving it will make you better at anything that you do.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I love that. I think that's awesome advice. And I think just a universal thing. I mean, everyone struggles with that all the time. Like that never goes away. But I love that realization of like, wait, like I'm as good as, those people that are around me are a little bit above me and like, and feeling more secure in that. And if you're not, someone's listening, you're not feeling as secure, just like, I think it's so important to start being more aware of that and like understanding. I mean, I feel like it's like a thing that said a lot of like, everybody has
Mhm.
imposter syndrome. It's not just when you're early in your career and that
Absolutely.
you do have so much potential. And so, yeah, I can
And I,
definitely, oh, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think the best piece of advice actually is to not be afraid of your dumb ideas. Don't be afraid to speak them out loud. Don't be afraid to share them with people, even if they are the most far-fetched, impossible things. The best idea that you're going to have is going to come out of that. You being able to say, hey, maybe this isn't the best idea, but what if we did this and just work from there? That's value. That's at least someone that's putting themselves out there that isn't afraid to think. And I always say, especially in marketing, you have to care enough about the thing that you're working on to be creative about it. Because if you don't care, it's very easy to be like, okay, yeah, we'll get this in front of the target audience and we'll put a paid social campaign behind it. And, there are basic things that you can do for everything. But once you care about something, that's when you start to actually get creative with it. So don't waste your time with things you won't care about. Like get to know yourself because you won't care. You won't be good at it because why would you? And that's okay.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I want to talk just a little bit more about this transition to Hulu. So, I'm also imagining because before you were at the agency and then switched over to Hulu. So, kind of on this theme of like realizing your worth when it came moving to a larger company that I'm also assuming has the ability to like offer a larger salary, or kind of at this point too, you're kind of being like, okay, I'm worth more. Do you have any advice when it comes to like switching jobs and asking for a salary but not really knowing where to price yourself at or like any advice there?
Yeah. When I also did not know what the typical salary was for the role that I was coming into at Hulu. I asked for a lot, I will be honest. I asked for a lot. They were very transparent. They said, we can't meet you there, but we can do X, Y, and Z. And, you know, kind of brought me up to it. I think the best advice is people say what you want, because whether you say what you want and then say, oh, but I'm flexible, or oh, but we can talk about it, they're going to say no, whether you like, their answer will not change. So by you saying, I want, let's just throw a number out there, I want 100K salary. And they're like, or you say, I want 100K salary, period. Stop it there. Because whether or not they can do that, and whether or not you say, I'm flexible, or we can work it out, or whatever, they're going to tell you what they can do. And it's not going to be the thing that pushes them away from you or anything like that. And always aim higher. Always aim higher. These companies have too much money.
Yeah.
Always aim higher than what you think. And have your like minimum for sure. Don't tell them your minimum, but aim higher. Don't tell them you're flexible, because they like, you will be flexible regardless. You know,
Yeah.
their it's their job to lead the conversation. It's your job to answer the question. And
Yes.
that's
I was like, I like absolutely love. I say the same thing, like literally exactly your advice. But now on social media and stuff, I feel like a lot of the women that I work with will get a little bit confused about, not wanting to say a number because like they don't want to, say the wrong thing. But I love, love, love your advice of saying a big number. Say more than
Mhm.
what you want to make because you're not going to scare away the employer. And I think that's what a lot of girls like are afraid of is like, oh my gosh, what if I say too much and then they change their mind about me and then they no longer want to hire me? But that is not the case. What you said is the case. Well, they'll say, oh, we can't meet you there, but we
Yeah.
can do this if. And then the other thing I love that you said is that don't over explain yourself. Just say the number and embrace the silence and just like shut up. Just say what you want,
Yeah,
be quiet, and then let them take the conversation from there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough though. I get it. But I'll tell you, so I have now been on the other side of the hiring process to bring someone on my team. And I can promise you the things that you, as you being someone who is interviewing and as you're going through this process, the things that you're really stressing about are probably not the things that they're stressing about. Things like not knowing how to answer the salary question, even things like, definitely talk about the tangible experience and thoughts that you have. But to me, God, showing up as yourself and as someone that can have a conversation and you can be put in front of other people and just exist well with them is the biggest power in this industry. And don't lose sight of that. Like, don't get so caught up in the nitty gritty of what you've done and haven't done in the experience. Embrace yourself as a whole package, because it is. It's not, I don't only email with people that I work with. We're talking every single day. You are coming with, you're coming with your experience, you're coming with things that you've done, but you're also coming with a brain and a personality and insight to share. And there's a larger package than the story that you're trying to create through these answers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they're not just hiring you for your experience. They're also you're choosing somebody that you're gonna have to work with every single day.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of the decision as well. And it's not that if I answered the question perfectly or if I didn't have the perfect answer for one question or I stumbled up upon that. It's way more on the bigger picture and way more on how that interaction and impression. And honestly, sometimes I feel like with interviewing, it's almost sometimes like an intangible thing that I'm looking
Mhm.
for. It's not like a specific question I can ask. It's just more of like a feeling like, oh yeah, I think this person would fit well with our team and I feel like they'd be a good fit for the role.
Yeah. And I think as people are looking for their jobs, also remember that you are signing up for something. People are not just signing up to hire you, you are signing up to be hired. So also pay attention to the people that you're interviewing with. Make sure you're talking to someone that wants to be a mentor, that cares about growing you on their team, because that's important too. Like, it is not, we forget that because we're basically begging these companies to hire us, we forget that they also have to show us stuff too, because it's tough. We spend most of our lives working, and just you want to make sure you're finding good people too.
Yeah. Okay, I hope that was helpful. I think that's super helpful for people that are interviewing, especially the salary. I always just try to give peace of mind to, like, especially young women, that like you can act, say a number, you don't need to deflect. Be
Hmm.
secure in like your worth and how much you want to ask for, and also know like as long as you're not being like crazy, like asking for like a 200K salary for like a 65K job, as long as you're not being
Yeah.
like crazy, crazy. Um,
Especially now that they have the salary ranges available,
yes.
ask for the top. Like,
Yes, yes,
you
absolutely. Although
know.
I was actually just talking about this, sometimes companies, because in certain states that the salary requirements are like legally required, is that they put like unrealistic ranges. Like they'll make the range like 50 to
Mm.
150K or something that's
Oh
just
my gosh, yeah.
like not doesn't isn't helpful at all.
Totally
But
defeats the purpose.
yes, yes. But when they do have the range that's a little bit smaller and seems more realistic, definitely ask for the top. And
Mhm.
even to when even if they don't ask you, let's say you're in the interview process, they never ask you what your salary requirements are. And when they finally do offer you a salary, it's above what you were expecting. Still ask for more. Like you can
Yeah.
still push the envelope. Like they didn't know what you kind of were looking for. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, I
And
always
don't
say you're
forget
leaving money
about
on the
like,
table.
yeah, and don't forget about like bonuses. And there are other ways to
Mhm.
get that you can get creative with too, outside of salary. So don't forget about those parts too.
Absolutely. Okay, Mackie, let's jump in a little bit more into your role at Hulu because it sounds like such a fun job. So, can you tell me a little bit about maybe like a day in the life or a week in the life, or kind of what are some of the main responsibilities of your role?
Yeah. So I know I kind of already said this at the beginning, but I'll go more in detail. So on the strategy team, our main role is to create, I always call it the overarching story that we are telling about the show or the film or whatever we're marketing before people get to form their own opinions. So that to me is so through that, it's like we're identifying, target audience, of course, but we're also doing things like how we're going to position this. What is the one sentence that helps make this film or series feel digestible to a passerby on the street kind of thing? Talking about the broadest way ins, of course, all the marketing speak that we throw around. But so we create that overarching strategy, the overall story, and then we work very, very closely with our PR leads, our social leads, paid media leads to make sure that their personal strategies and campaigns that they're building all funnel up to this one story that we're trying to tell. So we're kind of like the keeper of like the things. We make sure everything moves smoothly. It again is all laddering up to the same thing. And then we're also usually it's kind of like the buck ends with us. We're usually the face for the EPs or the executive producers, or leadership or whoever. So a lot of presenting in this job as well, a lot of talent relations and people skills and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's really fun, and it's a really fun, like, it really tickles both sides of my brain because you have the strategic part where we're very data oriented, insights oriented. Strategies are built based off of research that we can do. But then once we get into the actual campaign and the execution, it's so creative. It's a lot of problem solving, a lot of just quick thinking that I really like. But yeah, so I don't know that there's a day in the life kind of thing, but it's like every day we're working through a strategy that is dictating what a lot of the other teams are kind of building on their own.
Okay. And what is like the lead time? So let's say Hulu's coming out with the new show. How early do you get it? Is it like 6 months, a year? Like how long are you getting it before people even know that it exists?
Well, it depends on the content. I will say specifically for adult animation, we work about 2 years out.
What?
because I
Oh
know.
my God.
I know. Well, because adult or animation in general takes so long to make and create, and just the whole process is really long. So yeah, we're usually working about 2 years out, especially if we're trying to get like custom content for our campaigns. That takes a long time with the animators and all of that. So adult animation, it is not typical, but our windows are very, very, very long.
Oh my
Other
gosh.
shows we could get, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, is the show done at that point, or are like they still finishing the show, but you're starting to like work on the strategy?
They're usually still finishing the
Okay.
show while
Okay.
we're working on the strategy. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely some leeway as we get into like later seasons and you kind of have a rapport and once you're in it, maybe you can shorten that lead time. But usually, yeah, we're trying to get at least a year and a half in advance.
Oh my gosh.
But there have been times where we have gotten shows or films 3 months before launch, and we have to put together an entire strat, which is zero time at all. That's like no time at all to get an entire media campaign together, an entire social campaign. If we're trying to get a press junket together, like it can be 3 months, and then sometimes we're working 2 years out. But typically it'll be, I would say, about a year out from launch. We will either have the show itself or the show starting to get into production, and we'll meet with them, and then we start working on the strategy simultaneously as they're finishing it.
Do you have to watch every episode of every show that you work on, or how does that work? Or what is the like, because is the research like watching the show, or is the research like, looking at the audience and
Mm.
demographics around the show, or is it both?
I would say yes, we should watch everything that we have. I'm sure, some shows you can watch the first couple episodes and get away with it. I just work very closely with our producers, and if God forbid they ask me something and I'm like, I don't know, you know. But I think there's leeway. When it comes to research, definitely research more so on audiences, people's thoughts on content. If we always do evaluations of our previous marketing campaigns so that we can see what people are resonating with, and all of this is, it's a privilege to have access to so much data and everything that we have. So being able to really cater our campaigns because of that is helpful. But yeah, and then research can also just be what you're noticing on socials. And if you're seeing that people are liking long form content, call that out in the strategy. It can really be anything that pertains to it, kind of thing.
Were you interested in adult animation when you came into this role, or did that like interest come after you got this role?
I was My role before this was working very, very closely with a like one of the main adult animation creators. Um, so because of that, I like knew a lot about adult animation. Would I
Okay.
say it's like my biggest passion in life? Not really. But or no, I my biggest passion with it is honestly the audience that we get to market to, because I love the passion and the commitment that these adult animation fans have. Is It's like admirable to me. Like it's just like different from me, as I'm very casual. I'm very like, I just have never clung on to anything like that. So being able to go to Comic-Con and follow along on Reddit and see how passionately they talk about these shows and the creators and the people involved, it's my favorite part. And I like that we get direct feedback. And I like that we are sitting on a pedestal where they will say, "What are you doing? We don't like this." And, I like that pressure that comes with it. So it's like the content itself. I do watch adult animation. My dad and I watched Family Guy growing up. Like, I definitely am a fan in and of itself. But my passion really comes from the people that we get to talk to through it. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of a special thing about marketing that I don't know if people talk about, but the special thing about marketing is that I don't think it always has to be that you're passionate specifically about the thing that you're marketing, but you can find your passion through the audience, through the creative that you get to engage with, through, whatever it is. And I think that's really special and cool, and having those different lenses that pique your excitement. That's what makes marketing cool and can keep it fresh and interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about for anyone that's interested in getting into, the entertainment industry kind of in a role like where you are at now, but maybe they don't have a ton of experience? Do you have any advice for them on how they can break into the industry?
Yeah, definitely. If you are a sane person and didn't do 10 internships in college, um, yeah, definitely. I think, look, the tried and true of like blind reach outs on LinkedIn to get coffee or do a Zoom, I think does go far. Especially, I would target like the managers and the senior managers, the more middle management at company. I think those people are I just think, very generous with their time, very excited to talk about. Usually they're getting into a place in their career where they're starting to feel like they figured a couple things out, So I would definitely try to reach out to those like managers, senior managers, kind of middle management of companies, because I think they will be the most helpful. Um, I also think that people forget that entertainment, or not forget, but I don't think people know how much exists in entertainment, because people forget that things like Ticketmaster and Live Nation are entertainment companies, but they can be more corporate, but they still have like the glitz and glam of like you get to go to shows and you get to be involved in, maybe you're marketing the marketing of a show or of a tour, whatever's coming through. But there are a lot of avenues to get into entertainment that I would not discount. I would also not discount. There's a website called entertainmentcareers.net that I always found. That's actually where I found all of my internships through, because a lot of smaller companies post their job listings there. And those smaller companies, I feel like smaller companies are the things that are running entertainment. Like obviously we have the big Disney and NBC and those things, but the smaller companies are really where you're going to get the behind the scenes, hands-on parts of the industry that you haven't seen, that you don't even know exists. And I would just be open to those approaches rather than like the straightforward Disney, CAA, whatever the big companies are that people are going after.
Yeah, that's a super awesome website to note down. Entertainmentcareers.net because
Mhm.
I recently listed a job on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn basically wants you to pay like anywhere between like $2,000 to $5,000 to promote your job on LinkedIn. It's actually insane.
Really?
Yes, they basically want you to pay like $70 a day, and then if you do that, they only guarantee like 20 applicants. It's
Oh my
wild.
God.
And so I was literally thinking, I was like, thankfully with Sky Society, we have a big like reach on social, so like, we were able to like promote the job organically. But I was like, for smaller companies, like they can't be
Mhm.
like affording to pay to post a job on LinkedIn. And
I didn't
Indeed
even
is
know you
this,
had to pay to be on
I
LinkedIn.
don't know
Wow.
if it's a new thing or what, but yes, you do have to pay now. And same with Indeed. I was like, well, like this is crazy. Let me go to Indeed. Let me post the same thing. Indeed would let me have it for free for like a little bit, but then they wanted me to pay. So I think that finding some of those smaller job boards can be really helpful because especially if you're
Yeah.
trying to get like an internship, like an indie music company or some smaller entertainment company
Yeah.
that's not going to pay to be listed on those sites. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
like a recent
I never
discovery I made.
even, yeah, the website is fantastic. It's broken down by music, TV, film. It has like through, again, every part of entertainment is on it. And I've only ever looked for jobs there because it's a lot easier and it's so specific. And it's easy to apply. Like they just send you the email to, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
definitely.
Amazing. Well, Mackie, thank you so much for walking us through your career journey and telling us more about your role. It has been so interesting to hear how you got here. Do you have any last advice you want to share for women in marketing?
Yeah, I think the secret of the entertainment industry is that, well, yeah, the secret of the entertainment industry is that women are running it. This is, I just think we don't talk about how much women do. And I think that it's very easy for women to have imposter syndrome. I think we have higher expectations on ourselves than any other kind of person in the world. Not, other than men, I guess is the saying. But um, women have an ability to, sorry, can I start over?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go for it.
Okay, here is what I have to say. Women do so much in marketing, and there is a reason because women have the capabilities to take the emotional aspect and take the strategic aspect and blend both. And that's what marketing is. It's taking an understanding of what people are doing, what people are liking, how people are responding to things, and then kind of figuring out how to manipulate that to work for you and what you need to do. And I think women naturally do that in our day-to-day lives. So it is very easy for women to have imposter syndrome. It's very easy for us to doubt ourselves and have very high expectations. I can guarantee anyone listening to this has higher expectations of themselves than any other person they're going to work for. And knowing that, you should just embrace the ability that you innately have and figure out how you personally make that better. Become undeniable in it because you as a woman have capabilities that I think most men don't have and have to kind of figure out. And now, because of that, your focus is just figuring out where you yourself fall in that and how you make it different and personal to you.
That is a beautiful ending to an amazing episode. Thank you so much, Mackie. Again, absolutely inspiring hearing your career journey, and I think that's incredible advice all of us women can leave and walk away with. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was really awesome.